Nine's Wide World of Sports takes you live to the Adelaide Hilton International for the 85th presentation of the William Ashley Magarey Medal. Your host for this evening, Ken K.G. Cunningham.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our coverage of the 1990 Magarey Medal presentation coming to you from the Hilton International. Well, it certainly is football's night of nights. And who will win South Australia's most prestigious individual award? That question, of course, will be answered a little later in the evening. But first of all, let's relive one of the touching moments of 1989.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the South Australian National Football League and of the football public of South Australia, I declare Gilbert McAdam the Magarey Medalist of 1989.
I'd like to thank Neil Curley for bringing me down to earth after last season. I'd like to thank my wife Violet and my little daughter, Ricky.
With your footy, I remember your first night, and I said to Dean Mobbs, "Now this kid's pretty special, and but you must have had a good upbringing up there amongst the little fellas with one footy."
Yeah, those was the good old days, and we used to
days.
do the waxing days, I suppose, when we used to wax with our mate and just go all out for the ball.
Gilbert, this is a far cry from those dusty, dry blocks at Alice Springs.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's something that I never thought I could achieve, but I did my schooling down here, so that, certainly helped.
If there is one message you could send to those kids up there, those hopeful young kids up there, what would it be?
Just go for it.
Gilbert, there must be dozens of little black kids still up around Alice Springs, exactly like you were a few years back, saying to themselves, "Gee, look at Gilbert McAdam, what he's done. That's what I want to do." And I think you've given those kids a tremendous motivation to get going.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's pretty scary for a young Aboriginal boy to come to the city, and it's new environment and just new people, and you're away from your family, and Aboriginal ties in families very close, and I suppose they're the things we've got to come to grips with.
And I believe your wife Violet has got to take a lot of the credit because she more or less got you going.
Yeah, well, she definitely was the one that got me going because, she was pregnant at the time and, nothing was happening in Alice Springs and, I just didn't want to end up like the rest of them, I suppose, in some way.
And you've signed a 3-year contract with St Kilda, and this, of course, you see is something that's going to give you financial security for life.
Yeah, well, I'd like to own my house one day and, bring my kids up and do the right thing like my parents did us.
A lot of people are amazed at the way you have the ability to evade tackles and evade the opposition, and I know you've made mention of the fact that it could have been passed on from your ancestors because they had the Dodge Spears back in the old days.
Yeah, I reckon it's got something to do with it because, that's something that they had to do and that was part of their discipline and, survival and that sort of stuff. So, I'm certain it helped, but also I think since I've been in the city, there's too many cars and too many people. I seem to be dodging them more than anything.
Well, I guess your ancestors, if they weren't good at dodging, they were dead. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, the worst are going to hit you is a tackle.
The amazing Rowan Smith.
55 metres out, the kick on the way. I think he's kicked it.
That is a good goal, and just what the Bays needed.
What a powerful leg he's got. Individually, magnificent job.
David Hines back onto the ground. The tap down. Hodges went up for it. The tap goes to a page. Hodges is he just about knocked the goal umpire over, and he's got his 100.
Mercy.
And joining me now, Kim Dillon, and Kim, what a marvellous year Scotty has had.
He has, Ken. His talent's always been very obvious, and I think the consistency arrived this year, and that's been the difference. And I suppose if we look at full forwards in South Australia over the years, we've been blessed with many very talented ones.
Well, we have Dennis Sachs, of course, Freddie Phillips, and Kenny Whelan.
Actually, Ken Whelan amazed me how he could ever kick straight with those flat punts a la Peter Hudson.
And of course, I guess the daddy of them all, Kim, was the late Ken Farmer, who I believe kicked something like, 1,419 goals. Great effort.
He did, Ken, and he kicked over 100 goals in 8 consecutive years. And when you consider the highlight of that was 125 in 1940, it's a magnificent effort. And in recognition of Ken Farmer's magnificent career, a medal is awarded to South Australia's leading goal kicker during the minor round. And the 1990 Ken Farmer medalist with 127 goals from the Port Adelaide Football Club is Scott Hodges.
Congratulations, Scott. It was a fantastic effort. You kicked 10 goals in that first game out at Elizabeth, and then from then on you had a couple of weeks a bit wayward with the bird. What was the problem?
Well, I lost my confidence here after the Norwood game, and you know, Jack had a word to me to get out in the track and really hit the ball hard, and started getting the hands well, but my kicking was going astray. But then halfway through the year, I started grabbing and started kicking the goals, which I was very pleased.
It was ironical that you started to kick straight when you started to take out the coach's daughter, Julie. Was that about the time?
Oh no, Jules, she's been really good to me all year, you know.
Very good, yeah.
No, you know, she comes from a sporting background there, and she understands football, and she's been a real good help to me throughout the year, and all the boys especially, you know, they've been delivering the ball very well, and it makes my job a lot easier when I've got the ball put out 10 metres in front of me.
The last full forward to kick to win a Magarey medal was Freddie Phillips. With your strong marking and beautiful long kicking, you've really got a chance this year.
I'll be happy to get a couple of votes, mate, but I can't see myself up the top there, no.
Well, it's great to see the umpires looking after full forwards these days too, Scott.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Scott.
No worries, Rick.
Got two great full forwards there, Kim, and Rick Davies, his own right, the Jumbo Prince, beat at 151 in 1983.
And it was a little remiss of us not to mention him earlier. Apologies, Rick.
Well, the Nissan Cup Reserves Magarey Medal, which is a super replica of the League Magarey Medal, was presented earlier tonight by League Vice President Mr Bob Lee.
And the winner from the West Adelaide Football Club, polling 14 votes, is Max Gasparoni.
I'd just like to thank everyone at the West Adelaide Football Club. They've really welcomed me with open arms. The coaching staff, the trainers and that have helped me, and mainly all the players that have really been a great help to me, and you couldn't meet a nicer bunch of blokes. Thanks a lot.
Well, of course, Kim, my beloved Bloods couldn't make the major round, but it's nice to win a medal. It's great.
I won't argue with that, Ken. And the Under-19s medal is named after former West Torrens player and official, also league delegate, Bill Tompkins. And the winner this year from the Norwood Football Club, polling 17 votes, is Michael King.
Well, I'd like to thank the Norwood Football Club for giving the opportunity to play down in the SANFL, and I'd like to thank my father for all his encouragement for all this, and all the teammates from the under-19s. They've been great, and the 2 underage coaches, Ian Stafford and Frank Leonard. Thank you.
He's a nervous young man, but it's amazing over the years, Kim, how many youngsters from the Nord Football Club have won medals. Incredible.
And just perhaps they may have been from the West Torrens Football Club if the zoning wasn't changed quite a while ago.
The Under-17s McCullum medal, named after Fred McCullum, a Lord Mayor of Nord and long-serving Nord League official, was won by young Troy Bond of Port Adelaide, polling 21 votes.
I'd just like to thank my parents and my grandparents for their support during the year, and to Ivan for a great job of coaching us, and to all my teammates, thanks a lot.
You know, I sometimes feel as though I've been around the bay forever, but there's 2 old-timers who really have seen it all. Jim Hamby won the medal in 1928 and Bluey Johnson won it in 1934. How are you guys? Now, Jim, you began your league career in 1922 with South Adelaide, but you moved in 1925 to the newly formed Tigers. Now, I can't imagine it, but we lost all of our 56 games in the first 4 years that we played. Tell us about your first game at the start of 1925.
More or less that day, it was that we had a solid back lines, and we repelled most of Torrens' dangerous attacks. And our fellas, the younger fellas with the run of the ball, they were able to outscore Torrens. It was a case where our faster play outscored Torrens on that day.
And you beat last year's premiers.
We beat last year's premiers. And of course everyone thought that we were going to go top that year, and we never won another match.
Well, Blue, what do you reckon? Do you reckon you'd get a kick today?
Hardly. I'd be lucky if I got a kick today.
You think
because
so?
I used to rely mainly on marking the ball. But now, with the game going so fast, they're there to punch it out as soon as the ball gets in the air.
It must have worked because you really were an Iron Man. Now, look, some of the old-timers who've been around the bay for a long time tell me that your forte, your strength, was your high-flying fingertip marking, and that, in fact, in the 1934 grand final, one of those marks saved the day. Tell us about that.
I could tell you a bit about it, yes, but I remember very well that day, all right, but it was during the last quarter, would be about the last 5 minutes, I suppose, and the ball was kicked out up in their forward line, and I drifted back, you see. It was going over my head, and I just put my arm out like that, luckily, you see, and the ball stayed in my hand.
Oh, no, you're being too modest.
It did.
And now, on to tonight's medal. Who's your tip?
I go for Marshall.
Jimmy goes for David Marshall.
Out of a very, very tight competition,
yes,
I go for Marshall.
Guys, thanks for sharing some of your footy memories with us. It's been great.
If I could turn back time.
There was 2 great champions there of the past, way back in 1928, Jim Hamby, and 1934, Blue Johnson. They're both with us this evening, which is absolutely fantastic, but it really is great to reminisce. OK, let's have a look now as to who are the likely contenders for the 1990 Magarey medal. now, Mr. 1 to 10, Graham Campbell. And Graham, we've seen some of the favourites there. Who are some other players that may have a chance for tonight's medal?
Well, just looking at it quickly, Andrew Johns wasn't in that little clip, so
Right.
he's one guy from Sturt that must have a silly chance. Perhaps Scotty Hodges, 127 goals thus far. Must give him a real opportunity of being another full forward to win a Magarey. And perhaps David Marshall, as the Glenelg boys were saying.
Who's your tip?
Gee, look, I've agonised over this, don't we always? But I've got to go for Darren Jarman.
Why,
to
Graham?
beat his brother. Well, just that he's got a bit of flair in his football. Everything he does, you can't help but notice it. And I just think he's got that extravagant football energy in his game that will grab the more 3 votes than I think he even imagines.
Well, Graham, before we go into the count, what made news in the first opening rounds of the league season?
I'm glad you asked me, Ken, seeing it's in the script. The 1990 season, Ken, kicked off with 24 new players making their debut in South Australian football.
And really, Graham, we saw some outstanding youngsters. Liptak, Rouvray, also Saliba, Johns.
Gavin Wanganeen.
You know,
some great players have really graced the football field this year in South Australian League footy, and that was a plus for the competition, obviously. Also, our erstwhile friend Andrew Jarman defected from North Adelaide and played his first league game for Norwood.
And that was a tough, hard game, Graham.
Against who do you reckon he played that game
North
against?
Adelaide, of
course,
Graham.
and they dropped the game, and Andrew wouldn't be happy with that. Not here tonight, unfortunately, but nonetheless, he'll remember that with some distinction.
It's a great game, actually, at the parade.
And last but not least, Ken, on Anzac Day in round 2 at Football Park, 36,000 people in excess of saw the Port Norwood game, and that, at this point in time, is a minor round record crowd.
Well, I'm sure, Graham, if Port Norwood meet in the major round, it'll be a bumper crowd. In fact, I think it'll be a sellout. Count, and first of all, I'd like to introduce to you the General Manager of the SANFL, Mr. Lee Wigger. Lee, welcome tonight.
Good evening, Ken. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We trust tonight's count will be most exciting. We look forward to it with great enthusiasm.
And our President, Mr. Max Bashir. Good evening, Max.
Good evening, Ken. Your Excellency, Mr. Premier, Mr. Dale Baker, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the 1990 Magarey Medal count. It is my duty to inform you that this function constitutes an official meeting of the League, and I do look forward to your cooperation during the evening. In April this year, the League directors resolved that in the event of a tie, a medal will be awarded to each player receiving the equal highest number of votes, which is a change from the previous count-back system. I must remind you also that a player found guilty of a breach of the laws of the game is not eligible to win the medal. Earlier this evening, the voting envelopes were checked and arranged in order of the official league program, and the games and votes will be called round by round. The first vote called in each match will be the first preference votes, which carry 3 votes. And so that I will now proceed to call round 1. Glenelg versus West Torrens. Glenelg, J. Fidge, 3 votes. West Torrens, F. Spiel, 2 votes. West Torrens, T. Clark, 1 vote. Sturt versus West Adelaide. West Adelaide, D. Barch, 3 votes. West Adelaide, R. McKinnon, 2 votes. West Adelaide, L. Grosser, 1 vote. Central Districts versus Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide, S. Tregenza, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, S. Hodges, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, D. Hines, 1 vote. Norwood versus North Adelaide. North Adelaide, R. Carlaw, 3 votes. North Adelaide, T. Clisby, 2 votes. And North Adelaide, D. Jarman, 1 vote. Woodville versus South Adelaide. Woodville, D. Clem, 3 votes. South Adelaide, N. Smart, 2 votes. And Woodville, I. Detman, 1 vote. That completes the voting in round 1. Round 2, South Adelaide versus West Adelaide. West Adelaide, P. Banfield, 3 votes. West Adelaide P. Patterson, 2 votes. South Adelaide M. Bennett, 1 vote. West Torrens versus Woodville. West Torrens A. Schwartz, 3 votes. West Torrens T. Clark, 2 votes. And West Torrens L. Shackey, 1 vote. North Adelaide versus Central Districts. North Adelaide T. Clisby, 3 votes. North Adelaide D. Jarman, 2 votes. And North Adelaide K. Klomp, 1 vote. Port Adelaide versus Norwood. Port Adelaide G. Phillips, 3 votes. Port Adelaide D. Borlase, 2 votes. And Norwood A. Jarman, 1 vote. Sturt versus Glenelg. Glenelg M. Liptak, 3 votes. Sturt J. Painter, 2 votes. And Glenelg L. Bow, 1 vote. That completes the voting in round 2. Round 3, Woodville versus Central Districts. Central District S. Lee, 3 votes. Woodville R. Negri, 2 votes. Woodville R. Champion, 1 vote. North Adelaide versus West Torrens. West Torrens A. Schwartz, 3 votes. West Torrens S. Morfitt, 2 votes. And North Adelaide P. Simmons, 1 vote. South Adelaide versus Sturt. South Adelaide M. Bennett, 3 votes. South Adelaide D. Kapler, 2 votes. And South Adelaide N. Smart, 1 vote. West Adelaide versus Norwood. Norwood M. Robran, 3 votes. Norwood J. Storitsky, 2 votes. And West Adelaide B. Winton, 1 vote. Glenelg versus Port Adelaide. Glenelg D. Marshall, 3 votes. Glenelg C. McDermott, 2 votes. And Port Adelaide S. Williams, 1 vote. That completes the first 3 rounds.
Thanks very much, Max. And there you see the leaderboard. It's only early days, but Alan Schwartz on top with 6, and sadly Alan missed most of the year with injury. And I think the thing there to keep in mind is the fact that Darryl Hart, the North Adelaide captain, is yet to get onto the leaderboard. But as I said, it is certainly only early days. Well, the print media plays a very important role in football today. In fact, there's over 350 years of experience among the photographers from the News and the Advertiser. They take over 200 shots each week, of which only a dozen are used.
choice for this year's Magarey medal?
Andrew John for sure. He played for Sturt, an excellent recruit.
I think Scott Lee would have to have a very good choice, although back pockets aren't winning Magarey medals much, I suppose.
Simon Tregenza. Nigel Smart. Darren Jarman.
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't really given it much thought.
Daryl Hart. Matthew Liptak.
Definitely Stephen Wright, who's playing well all year.
Chris McDermott. Redden. Michael Redden. It'd have to be Andrew Jarman. Yeah, I'd agree, yeah.
Excuse me, who was your choice of this year's Magarey medal?
Pardon? Scott Lee from Centrals, I think.
Having the finest.
Andrew Jarman must be going pretty good, I think. For sure.
It's an amazing thing, Kim. We can all be at the same game, yet have different opinions. Incredible.
Well, I think that's the beauty of our game, Ken. There's so many variables involved, we can all walk away with a different impression.
It's so emotional too, isn't it?
And we wouldn't have it any other way.
Kimbo, how do you see it after the first 3 rounds?
Well, having a look at it at the moment, and as you can see, Alan Schwartz, who was off to a magnificent start, is leading on 6 points. Trevor Clisby, the old veteran at centre-half back, on 5 votes. Michael Bennett polling well again, and a string of players on 3 votes. And very noticeable to see that Daryl Hart is yet to poll a vote.
That might be good for Daryl Hart, Kimbo. Perhaps come home with a rush.
Well, he did have a very good end to his season, and let's hope he can pick up a few votes.
All right, Kimbo, before we have the counting of rounds 4 through to 6, what made the topical news in those games?
Well, for those that can't remember back that far, it was the time when South Adelaide announced that they may be no more.
And look at it now, into the elimination final on Sunday against them. What a fantastic performance by the boys.
It certainly has been, and everyone at the club deserves a lot of credit. It's been a huge achievement. It really has been. They've come from nowhere. And also, Mike Parsons, after being sacked from the Sydney Swans, went back to North Adelaide, and that was a fairly useful pickup.
Look at last week, almost best on ground, of course, on the eve of the major round, so Michael and the boys are smiling about that.
And so they should be. Took plenty of marks and kicked 5 goals. And also, and perhaps the upset of the year, in round 6, West Adelaide defeated Port Adelaide at Richmond Oval by 82 points.
Why is it my beloved Bloods can beat the top sides, Norwood, tie with Glenelg, but can't beat the middle of the order?
Well, it's probably a legacy of your support, kid. You'd be a fair monkey on anyone's back.
Thank you, Kimbo. OK, let's go back to our president now for the counting of rounds 4 through to 6. Thank you, Max.
Thank you, Ken. Round 4, Central District versus Norwood. Central District, S. Lee, 3 votes. Central District, S. Ghazi, 2 votes. And Central District, R. Mandermaker, 1 vote. Glenelg versus South Adelaide. South Adelaide, N. Smart, 3 votes. Glenelg, J. Fidge, 2 votes. And Glenelg, T. Simons, 1 vote. Port Adelaide versus North Adelaide. Port Adelaide, G. Fiarchi, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, S. Tregenza, 2 votes. And Port Adelaide, G. Phillips, 1 vote. West Torrens versus Sturt. West Torrens, G. Toohey, 3 votes. West Torrens, B. Lindsay, 2 votes. And Sturt, M. O'Keefe, 1 vote. West Adelaide versus Woodville. Woodville, J. Klug, 3 votes. Woodville, Champion, 2 votes. And Woodville, S. Cox, 1 vote. And that completes round 4. Round 5, West Adelaide versus North Adelaide. West Adelaide, G. Filkey, 3 votes. North Adelaide, T. Lehman, 2 votes. And North Adelaide, K. Klomp, 1 vote. South Adelaide versus Central District. South Adelaide, P. McCarty, 3 votes. South Adelaide, N. Smart, 2 votes. And Central District, S. Ghazi, 1 vote. Port Adelaide versus West Torrens. Port Adelaide, G. Wanganeen, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, B. Abernethy, 2 votes. And West Torrens, S. Morfitt, 1 vote. Woodville versus Glenelg. Woodville, D. O'Dwyer, 3 votes. Woodville, Champion, 2 votes. And Glenelg, C. McDermott, 1 vote. Norwood versus Sturt, Norwood T. Warhurst 3 votes, Sturt J. Painter 2 votes, and Norwood D. Payne 1 vote. And that completes round 5. In round 6, Norwood versus Glenelg, Norwood S. Rowe 3 votes, Norwood R. Maynard 2 votes, and Glenelg M. Liptak 1 vote. Woodville versus North Adelaide, Woodville R. Champion 3 votes, North Adelaide B. Ryan 2 votes, and North Adelaide D. Hart 1 vote. Central District versus Sturt, Central District E. Hocking 3 votes, Sturt A. Johns 2 votes, Central District S. Ghazi 1 vote. West Adelaide versus Port Adelaide, West Adelaide J. O'Donoghue 3 votes, West Adelaide R. McKinnon 2 votes, West Adelaide G. Filkey 1 vote. Torrens versus South Adelaide, South Adelaide P. Page 3 votes, South Adelaide G. Clenjans 2 votes, and West Torrens P. Pisani 1 vote. And that concludes the voting in round 6, Ken.
And there's the leaderboard after the first 6 rounds, with both Nigel Smart of South Adelaide polling extremely well on 8. Likewise, Richard Champion, of course, that dashing centre-half back from the Warriors on 8. But the voting indeed very, very close, with Scott Lee and Alan Swartz both on 6. But as I said earlier, it is only early days. And now, of course, to a man who won the Magarey medal way back in 1961. And often he was referred to as John the Baptist. And I'm talking about former Sturt champion Johnny Halbert.
Sturt Football Club was founded here at Unley in 1901 at the intersection of Cambridge and Oxford Terrace. The new club took its colours from the light blue of England's Cambridge University and the dark blue of Oxford, hence the famous double blues. In its second season, Sturt gained the services of an all-round champion athlete from the strong sporting township of Willunga, Hendrik Stanbury Way, better known as Taffy. The large Way clan lived in the growing state mining district, where Taffy worked as a blacksmith in the firm of Way Brothers, wheelwrights, shoeing and general blacksmiths. Taffy, who was a very strong and talented man, was an instant success as a ruckman at league level. But the difficult circumstances under which he travelled to play football were little short of amazing. He travelled almost 30 miles by horse and buggy from Willunga to Adelaide, then rucked for 4 quarters, and finally made the return trip to Willunga, often arriving home in the dark. He did this for all 71 games he played for Sturt from 1903 to 1910. Taffy won the Magarey medal in 1903, just his second season of league football. But as mentioned earlier, he wasn't just a footballer, he was an all-round athlete. In the preceding cricket season of 1902 and 3, he topped both the batting and bowling averages for Willunga and represented the Southern Association team. Late in his league football career, the Sturt club treated him somewhat shabbily, as a result of which he retired from league football. He continued, however, to play for Willunga, who were Southern Premiers in both 1909 and 1911. I remember Taffy when I met him at a Sturt Football Club function in the late 1950s. He impressed me immediately as a very wiry but strong character, not terribly tall for a ruckman, but obviously a real character and ornament to the game of football. Taffy died in July 1961 in his 85th year, and for many years his Magarey medal was missing. Unbeknown to his family, Taffy had left it in the safekeeping of a former mayor of Unley and ex-Sturt player and treasurer, Wally Southern. In 1989, after a Sturt win, Wally addressed supporters at an after-match function and presented the medal to the club. Amazingly, 3 generations of Taffy's descendants were present at the time and were delighted that Taffy's medal had come home to Unley, where it had been presented to him in February 1904.
May the good Lord be with you down every road you roll. And may sunshine and happiness surround you when you're far from home.
Now, Brian Cunningham and Bucky, there's nothing more spectacular than that big high mark in our game of footy, is there?
It's fantastic, Ken. I love watching it. Can't say I've ever done it.
Bucky, I thought in your day you took some of those big
KG,
grabs.
I took as many in my day as you did in your career, I tell you. And that wasn't too many.
That's for sure. It was none, actually, Buck.
But Stephen Schmidt's mark, that one was a tremendous mark.
And Mitchington, too, was a beauty.
It's great, yeah.
Fantastic stuff. Well, Bucky, how do you see the situation after the first 6 rounds?
Very interesting, Ken, as we have a look. Nigel Smart and Richard Champion both had fine seasons. Smart has a real chance, in my mind. Scott Lee as well, a favourite. Alan Schwartz on 6 as well. Fidge, Clisby, Tregenza and Garzi in it. But Darryl Hart, in my reckoning, has 1 vote to this stage.
Yes, he has, Brian. Perhaps he may come home with wet sail, but I am surprised he hasn't polled more votes at this stage.
Exactly, but I know that his last part of his season, Ken, was exceptional.
Outstanding.
So we'll see how we go.
All right, Bucky, before we go back for the counting of rounds 7 through to 9, what made news in those rounds?
Well, the veteran Ralph Sewer played his first game in round 7, Ken, and that made him the first player in Australian football history to play over 4 decades. He started in the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s.
A sad day on Saturday to see Ralphie retire, but he has been an ornament to the game of footy, hasn't he?
Fantastic player, and a grandfather as well, would you believe? But that was great. In round 7 also, it happened that Glenelg just got a draw at the very last moment when they stole that game from West Adelaide. That's vital.
Yeah, I just wonder whether that had any effect on Westies making the major round.
Oh, Ken, that extra point would have been enormous for them because they could well have sneaked into 5th position.
Story of our life, Bucky, the old Bloods.
And the Magpies got back Ben Harris and Mark Williams.
See, aren't they lucky, Bucky? It all seems to fall, doesn't it?
It's not necessarily luck, Ken. No, but when the Magpies give people away, they normally come back.
That's for sure. Good on you, Bucky. OK, let's go back to our president now for the counting of votes from round 7 through to 9. Thanks, Max.
Thank you, Ken. Round 7, Central District versus West Torrens. West Torrens, S. Whitehouse, 3 votes. West Torrens, T. Clark, 2 votes. And West Torrens, L. Shackey, 1 vote. Sturt versus North Adelaide. North Adelaide, T. Lehman, 3 votes. Sturt, A. Johns, 2 votes. And North Adelaide, S. Sims, 1 vote. Glenelg versus West Adelaide. West Adelaide, P. Foot, 3 votes. Glenelg, C. Lamb, 2 votes. And West Adelaide, B. Winton, 1 vote. Norwood versus South Adelaide. Norwood, A. Jarman, 3 votes. Norwood, J. Weeding, 2 votes. And Norwood, J. Antiocha, 1 vote. Port Adelaide versus Woodville. Woodville, D. Clem, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, S. Tregenza, 2 votes. And Port Adelaide, G. Phillips, 1 vote. That concludes the voting on round 7. In round 8, West Torrens versus Norwood. Norwood, C. Balm, 3 votes. Norwood, B. Maynard, 2 votes. And Norwood, G. Tanner, 1 vote. Sturt versus Woodville. Sturt, T. McCarthy, 3 votes. Sturt, J. Bastian, 2 votes. And Sturt, A. Johns, 1 vote. Central District versus West Adelaide. Central District, S. Lee, 3 votes. Central District, S. Swirt, 2 votes. And Central District, S. Ghazi, 1 vote. North Adelaide versus Glenelg. Glenelg, C. McDermott, 3 votes. Glenelg, C. Lamb, 2 votes. And Glenelg, R. Thompson, 1 vote. Port Adelaide versus South Adelaide. South Adelaide, N. Smart, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, R. Smith, 2 votes. And South Adelaide, P. McCarthy, 1 vote. That concludes the voting in round 8. In round 9, Port Adelaide versus Sturt. Port Adelaide, S. Williams, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, S. Hodges, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, M. Williams, 1 vote. South Adelaide versus North Adelaide, D. Jarman, 3 votes. North Adelaide, A. Saliba, 2 votes. And South Adelaide, P. McCarty, 1 vote. Glenelg versus Central District, Glenelg, C. McDermott, 3 votes. Central District, G. Smith, 2 votes. And Glenelg, R. Jameson, 1 vote. West Torrens versus West Adelaide, West Torrens, B. Lindsay, 3 votes. West Adelaide, B. Winton, 2 votes. And West Torrens, A. Pays, 1 vote. Woodville versus Norwood, Norwood, S. Rowe, 3 votes. Norwood, M. Robran, 2 votes. And Woodville, J. Klug, 1 vote. And that completes round 9.
Thanks very much, Max. The situation after round 9, and certainly we see, of course, Nigel Smart polling extremely well the South Adelaide football, and he's had a tremendous year along with Richard Champion. Well, of course, a young man who one day may be a Magarey medalist, on Monday, June the 11th at Football Park, captured the hearts of the football public. It was young Dwayne Cummins, who played mini-league for the Magpies.
It's my great pleasure to announce that the official winner of the 1970 Magarey Medal is Barry Robran from North Adelaide.
You've been through all of this before, but I'm sure that this must be a most exciting occasion for you, Barry, and I'm sure that there would be people up at Whyalla at the moment that would be probably dancing in the streets. Would you like to say hello to Mum and the rest of them up there at Whyalla?
Oh, if they're listening, I'd just like to say hello to everyone.
Barry, what's it like winning your 2nd Magarey Medal?
I don't know, it's pretty hard to answer, actually.
Barry, you came down, you had, firstly, where did you start playing football? You started playing in Whyalla?
Yeah, in Whyalla with the North Whyalla Colts. And then I played with the senior Colts and then with the A's for a couple of years, and then I came down here.
How long have you been down here in Adelaide now?
This is my 4th season.
Line of defence, kicks to half back. Oh! Now we'll see that tomorrow on the edited highlights. Robran has hit the grandstand roof as he marks. Towards centre half forward, up goes Freddie Phillips. The brilliant Robran. Here he goes, Stanley's in front of the way. It's going to go off the coach. And a goal! Oh, they're going to win this North Adelaide.
Turn back time.
Can you win it again?
If I could turn
if I get enough votes on it.
It's my very great pleasure to declare Russell Ebert of Port Adelaide the winner with what must surely be a record count of 42 votes. And if you've kept the score, that was 10 first votes, and I can tell you that it was also 6 second votes, so that Russell polled in 16 of the matches played this year. Congratulations, Russell.
Thanks very much.
Well, how does it feel, Russell?
Good, yeah. That's half what I want this year.
And the other half?
Premiership.
Port Adelaide into attack. They need a goal. Over to Ebert. He puts one hand out. He's over it now. Running in there. He's kicked it himself. Tackles it right down towards the square. Leaping up. Oh, Ebert. He's lifted his game.
Turn back time.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm sure that you'll all agree that Michael Aish possesses all of the qualities which are required of a Magarey medalist.
I was hoping Russell give me a few pointers. There's plenty of people to thank, you know. Firstly, the boys out of the club, you know, what a magnificent bunch of blokes. Neil Baum for looking after me. The family, mum and dad, they've been absolutely tremendous. Andrew for giving me about his third kick this season last Saturday. And it's got to be a special mention that I don't think I'd be standing up here unless it was the care that my sister's shown the last 9 months. A special thank you to her.
Michael Taylor's kicked down towards centre wing looking for Aish. Aish, a very talented footballer, has taken that mark. What a beauty. 23 years of age, 6'1", 13 stone 7. That's good statistics. As up goes Hardiman. Aish, cool, he gives it over to Turnbull, who made a bit of a mess of it. Mark Heinrich over to Wiseman. Gives it straight to Aish. That'll be the answering goal. A bad mistake there by Wiseman. And that's Aish's first.
And joining me now, of course, Ian Day and Daisy. There certainly was some talent there.
Yeah, all great players, Ken. 3 of the best in my time. 8 Magarey medals between them. Yeah, all individual in their styles, but champions all 3.
Well, talking about champions, Daisy, I umpired you and I'm surprised you didn't win a medal.
Ken, I had an amazing lack of talent. And I do recall, though, that I didn't yap at you, though, did I?
One grand final, Daisy, I gave you plenty of free kicks in 64.
Just as well you did. I would have been embarrassing otherwise, Ken, I can tell you. 1964. 6 it was.
6 free kicks.
You're not a bad fella.
Well, Daisy, how do you see it after round 9?
Well, Ken, my tip's not even on the leaderboard then.
You're a good judge.
Yeah. But then again, I tipped Bone to McDermott for the last 10 years and he's up there this year. So, well, I think it's going to be very exciting. I think it's going to be a low winning margin. And if I can have slips and start again, I'll go for Simon Tregenza.
Simon Tregenza from Port Adelaide. There
was
Nigel
7. Smart. Yeah.
Well, it's certainly only early days. We're almost halfway through the count. But Daisy, before we go back to the counting of rounds 10 to 12, what made news?
Well, Ken, rounds 10, 11 and 12 were interspersed by the state game, Western Australia versus South Australia, which we won by 21 points. But just as importantly, the league made 2 big changes to Sunday games. Port played Glenelg, Port played Norwood, and both games drew over 20,000 people. And, of course, that was a triumph for the South Australian National Football League.
Fantastic move, really.
It was. It was a great move, and I think the fans appreciated it and supported it. But also, Ken, it was the first of the Dogs' 5 wins on the trot that saw them make a futile bid for the final 5.
How do you reckon Curls, your old mate, will be feeling now, missing the 5?
Dirty.
Actually, they put in a good resurgence halfway through the year, didn't they? But perhaps ran out of puff.
Well, Ken, I think if they look back in hindsight, it was the game against West Adelaide at Richmond that cost them the 5. And they made a great bid, not good enough. But I don't mind. My mob made it.
Good on you, Daisy. Thank you for joining us. Let's now take you back to our president for counting of the rounds 10 through to 12. Thank you, Max.
Ken, in round 10, South Adelaide versus Woodville. South Adelaide, P. McCarthy, 3 votes. Woodville, R. Negri, 2 votes. And South Adelaide, N. Smart, 1 vote. Central Districts versus Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide, G. Phillips, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, R. Smith, 2 votes. And Central District, S. Lee, 1 vote. Glenelg versus West Torrens. West Torrens, A. Pays, 3 votes. Glenelg, D. Marshall, 2 votes. And West Torrens, C. Nelson, 1 vote. West Adelaide versus Sturt. West Adelaide, G. Filkey, 3 votes. West Adelaide, D. Murray, 2 votes. And Sturt, J. Painter, 1 vote. North Adelaide versus Norwood. Norwood, M. Robran, 3 votes. North Adelaide, T. Clisby, 2 votes. And Norwood, A. Jarman, 1 vote. That completes round 10. In round 11, Sturt versus Glenelg. Glenelg, R. Gibbs, 3 votes. Sturt A. McCarthy, 2 votes, and Sturt M. Turner, 1 vote. South Adelaide versus West Adelaide. South Adelaide D. Trevena, 3 votes. South Adelaide M. Grummett, 2 votes. And South Adelaide M. Bennett, 1 vote. Central Districts versus North Adelaide. North Adelaide D. Hart, 3 votes. Central Districts M. Pryor, 2 votes. And North Adelaide M. Redden, 1 vote. Norwood versus Port Adelaide. Norwood T. Warhurst, 3 votes. Norwood M. Robran, 2 votes. Port Adelaide G. Wanganeen, 1 vote. Woodville versus West Torrens. West Torrens W. Wiedemann, 3 votes. Woodville J. Martin, 2 votes. And Woodville R. Champion, 1 vote. That completes round 11. In round 12, Central District versus Woodville. Central District S. Lee, 3 votes. Central District S. Swert, 2 votes. And Central District S. Ghazi, 1 vote. West Torrens versus North Adelaide. West Torrens B. Lindsay, 3 votes. West Torrens F. Spiel, 2 votes. And West Torrens S. Neve, 1 vote. Sturt versus South Adelaide. South Adelaide M. Bickley, 3 votes. South Adelaide M. Whitford, 2 votes. And South Adelaide D. Hewitt, 1 vote. Norwood versus West Adelaide. West Adelaide B. Hoyle, 3 votes. West Adelaide S. Blythe, 2 votes. And Norwood D. Payne, 1 vote. Port Adelaide versus Glenelg. Port Adelaide S. Tregenza, 3 votes. Glenelg C. McDermott, 2 votes. And Port Adelaide S. Hodges, 1 vote. And that completes round 12.
And there you see the leaderboard, and what a count we have on our hands at the moment with Scotty Lee from the Bulldogs on top, who had a tremendous year in the back pocket on 13. Nigel Smart, the South Adelaide utility player, with 12. Chris McDermott on 11. And then Simon Tregenza and young Matthew Robin holding extremely well. Both have 10. Richard Champion 9. McCarty and Greg Phillips on 8. So the count at the moment after 12 rounds, very, very exciting. In a moment, we'll check each club's progress. But first of all, and now to a former champion rover who talks to one of his former teammates who starred some 15 years ago.
Peter, it's been a long time since you disappeared from the league football scene. It was mid-1980 season, and at that time a Glenelg player. What have you been doing for the last 10 years?
Well, Brian, since 1980, when I gave the game away, I was in the CIB as a shift worker, and I worked in various squads in central headquarters in Adelaide. In 1986, I transferred down to the Narracourt CIB, and I remained there till 89, when I returned to the Port Adelaide CIB. And in January this year, I transferred to be a lecturer here at the education wing at Thebarton Barracks.
Peter, your league career began in 1969. In the first 5 years, you had Foss Williams as a coach. How did you find Foss?
Yeah, well, there's only one Foss Williams, and fantastic bloke, a very genuine guy, very committed to his coaching, and there was always that thing that winning wasn't everything. It was the only thing in those days with Foster. It was great, and his appreciation of players' injuries was something unbelievable.
Russell Ebert was the favourite in 1975, but I've never seen a happier man than Russell after you won it, Peter.
Yes, Russell was certainly the favourite, really, and the way the count, it wasn't a count, the way they conducted the final placings that evening. They read out, they started with the third place getter, then it went to the second, and then the winner of the medal, and in fact they suggested the club first. So as soon as they mentioned Port Adelaide, I looked towards Russell because I was sure that he won another one.
Let's recall some of that football history for you, Peter.
And the winner of the 1975 Magarey medal from Port Adelaide.
Yes, well, it brings back a lot of great memories. It was a fantastic night. Memories I'll treasure for the rest of my life.
Peter, thanks for filling us in on those missing years of yours.
Up the chase, beat the man, take him on. You never give up, it's one-on-one. Express yourself, it's one-on-one. Express yourself, it's one-on-one. Express yourself, you can't be wrong. When something's good, it's never gone. Love's got the world in motion, and I know everyone see you never give up, that's how it should be. Don't get caught, make your own play, express yourself, don't give it away. Express yourself, it's one-on-one. Express yourself, it's one-on-one. Express yourself, it can't be wrong. When something's good, it's never gone. Love's got the world in motion, and I know what we can do. Love's got the world in motion, and I can't believe it's true.
Kimbo, I wonder how Darren feels having a brother like Andrew.
Well, they're both very talented footballers, but I think the similarities evaporate somewhat after that.
Actually, Kimbo, I didn't know he had a great voice, the old
Well, I
jazz.
can tell you he hasn't.
It wasn't him singing?
I don't think so, Ken.
Certainly a talented man. OK, Kimbo, let's check East Coast progress after round 12. Firstly, the Bulldogs.
And as we see there, Scott Lee leading at this stage for the Bulldogs on 13 votes, and that's quite predictable. Saad Ghazi on 6, and then Stephen Schwert, he's one of the real tries of the game, on 4 votes.
And of course, from Glenelg's point of view, Chris McDermott polling extremely well.
Well, there's no question he's a dark horse. He certainly wasn't mooted by most of the media experts. David Marshall was the favourite, but Chris McDermott on 11 votes, John Fidge 5, David Marshall, the immaculate one, on 5, and Clayton Lamb on 4, along with Matthew Liptak.
And from North Adelaide's point of view, Kimbo, Darryl Hart, the lack of votes surprising.
It is, and there was a late rumour that it may happen, but I, for one, find it very surprising. But he did finish the season extremely well. And the old veteran, Clipper Clisby, on 7 votes, Darren Jarman on 6, still within reach, and Troy Lehman, a very exciting wingman, on 5 votes.
And young Matthew Rodman of Norwood, perhaps somewhat of a bit of surprise at the moment.
Well, that polling votes must be hereditary. He has 10 at the moment. Tom Warhurst, unfortunately, not eligible with 6. Stephen Rowe, the jack-in-the-box from the parade, on 6, and Andrew Jarman with only 5.
And of course, from Port Adelaide's point of view, young Simon Tregenza polling well as we thought he would.
Well, he was one of the favourites, and Simon has 10 votes at the moment. Greg Phillips, now that's a bit of a surprise, on 8 votes. Scotty Hodges on 5. We perhaps could expect a few more in the latter rounds. And Gavin Wanganeen, one of the most exciting players in South Australian football, on 4 votes.
Nigel Smart of the Panthers having a very good year and right up there with them.
Well, he's a class act and the umpires have obviously recognised that. He has 12 votes. Peter McCarty, well, he's one of the most courageous players in the game. In the mould of Scott Lee, he has 8 votes. Michael Bennett, not eligible, on 5, and a host of players on 3.
And Andrew Johns of Sturt, I thought would have polled a lot better than that.
Well, I think that's a legacy of being in a side that hasn't performed all year. And as you can see, Tony McCarthy has 5, John Painter has 5, Andrew Johns has 5, it's a fact, and young Bastian has 2.
You're causing a ripple, Kimbo. West Adelaide.
As long as it doesn't turn into a wave. Grantley Filkey, 7, Robin McKinnon, 4, and Brian Winton has 4, and a number of other players, including the exciting young ruckman Darren Barch on 3.
And your beloved Eagles.
Champion side, Bruce Lindsay, another champion, on 8. Alan Schwartz, and it's a tragedy that he was injured early in the career, has 6. Troy Clark, another statistic of a knee injury, with 5 votes. And Frank Spill, the old warhorse, has 4 votes, along with Andrew Pays.
And Kim, can Richard Champion win it from there?
Well, he's a big possibility. I thought his first half of the season was perhaps better than his latter half, but he has 9 votes. Darren Clem, a most improved player, on 6 votes, and Negri and Klug also have 4. So let's check the leaders after round 12. David Mackay, any surprises?
Well, there certainly are, Kim. It's quite predictable that Scott Lee on 13 would be leading, but Nigel Smart with 12 was really a dark horse. Chris McDermott, who wasn't supposed to feature tonight and was supposed to other years and hasn't, is right up there. Simon Tregenza, of course, was a red-hot tip by a lot of people. Matthew Robran, the bolter, on 10. Richard Champion, he's only polled 1 vote since round 6, but he's still up there on 9. Peter McCarthy, an absolute bolter, on 8. And, of course, Greg Phillips, the big man, on 8. Wouldn't he be a favourite if he got up to win? And if you look through a few of the others, Darryl Hart, Darren Jarman, David Marshall, Andrew Jarman, Stephen Rose, Scott Hodges, Andrew Johns and Grantley Filkey, all favoured to vote particularly well before tonight, really are down there mainly on 5s and 6s. The real favourite of the night, Darryl Hart, only on 4 votes.
Thank you, David. And of course, the voting is so close, Kimbo, so we're all set now for what will be an exciting finish.
No question of that at all.
Unbelievable stuff. OK, before we go back for the counting of round through to 16, what made the topical news?
Well, the topical news in that period, well, Graham Corns faced the tribunal for for having one of his little friendly chats to the umpires.
Actually, he's got a different system now. He sends a runner out to Chris McDermott, who then goes to the umpire.
Well, that's all within the rules, so there's nothing wrong with that. And also, Neil Craig, at the age of 34, returned to the league ranks against West Adelaide at the Prospect Oval, and he is in superb form at the moment.
His form last week, Kimbo, was outstanding, just on the eve of the major round. Terrific stuff.
Another good sign, along with Parsons, just prior to the finals. And Kevin Morris was the subject of much innuendo, speculation and rumour, and he was finally reappointed down at Richmond.
Yes, and sad, I think, from Kevin's point of view, he's done a top job. They just missed the 5th spot.
Well, they only have themselves to blame. It was there for the taking. South Adelaide too good on Saturday.
Yes, they certainly were, and of course I'll play Norwood on Sunday in the elimination final. Thank you, Kimbo. Let's now go back to Max Bashir. It's getting very exciting in this count here for counting of the rounds 13 through to 16. Thank you, Max.
Thank you, Ken. In round 13, Glenelg versus South Adelaide. Glenelg, R. Jameson, 3 votes. Glenelg, C. McDermott, 2 votes. And South Adelaide, N. Smart, 1 vote. Sturt versus West Torrens. Sturt, B. Leonard, 3 votes. Sturt, G. Argus, 2 votes. And Sturt, K. Russell, 1 vote. Central District versus Norwood. Central District, G. Smith, 3 votes. Norwood, M. Robran, 2 votes. Central District, E. Hocking, 1 vote. West Adelaide versus Woodville. Woodville, D. Clem, 3 votes. Woodville, J. Klug, 2 votes. And West Adelaide, P. Winter, 1 vote. North Adelaide versus Port Adelaide. North Adelaide, A. McAdam, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, P. Northeast, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, S. Williams, 1 vote. That completes round 13. In round 14, Central District versus South Adelaide. South Adelaide, M. Bennett, 3 votes. Central District, S. Lee, 2 votes. Central District, G. Smith, 1 vote. West Torrens versus Port Adelaide. West Torrens, W. Wiedemann, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, S. Tregenza, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, S. Williams, 1 vote. Glenelg versus Woodville. Glenelg, D. Marshall, 3 votes. Glenelg, R. Jameson, 2 votes. And Glenelg, P. Rouvray, 1 vote. Norwood versus Sturt. Norwood, G. McIntosh, 3 votes. Norwood, A. Jarman, 2 votes. Sturt, A. Johns, 1 vote. North Adelaide versus West Adelaide. North Adelaide, T. Clisby, 3 votes. North Adelaide, P. Bennett, 2 votes. And North Adelaide, D. Hart, 1 vote. That completes round 14. In round 15, Sturt versus Central District. Central District, E. Hocking, 3 votes. Sturt, G. Argus, 2 votes. And Central District, G. Smith, 1 vote. South Adelaide versus West Torrens. South Adelaide, P. McIntyre, 3 votes. South Adelaide, M. Bennett, 2 votes. West Torrens, S. Geyer, 1 vote. Glenelg versus Norwood. Glenelg, R. Thompson, 3 votes. Glenelg, D. Marshall, 2 votes. And Norwood, J. D'Antoncio, 1 vote. Port Adelaide versus West Adelaide. Port Adelaide, S. Hodges, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, D. Brown, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, S. Williams, 1 vote. Woodville versus North Adelaide. North Adelaide, S. Tasker, 3 votes. North Adelaide, B. Ryan, 2 votes. And Woodville, G. Haylock, 1 vote. That's at the end of round 15. In round 16, West Adelaide versus Glenelg. Glenelg, R. Gibbs, 3 votes. West Adelaide, C. Ebert, 2 votes. West Adelaide, P. Banfield, 1 vote. South Adelaide versus Norwood. Norwood, R. Maynard, 3 votes. Norwood, S. Rowe, 2 votes. And Norwood, A. Jarman, 1 vote. Central District versus West Torrens. Central District, E. Hocking, 3 votes. Central District, S. Ghazi, 2 votes. Central District, G. McAdam, 1 vote. Woodville versus Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide, S. Hodges, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, D. Hutton, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, G. Wanganeen, 1 vote. North Adelaide versus Sturt. North Adelaide, A. Saliba, 3 votes. North Adelaide, D. Hart, 2 votes. And North Adelaide, D. Clisby, 1 vote at the end of round 16.
Well, look at that leaderboard at the moment with 4 rounds to go. That is unbelievable. Scotty Lee's still on top with 15. Then we have 2 players on 13, Chris McDermott and Nigel Smart, with Simon Tregenza and Matthew Robin on 12. 2 players on 11, Clisby and Scotty Hodges. And then, of course, South Adelaide and Michael Bennett, who's ineligible, but certainly very exciting count. We'll come back with more right after the break. Oh, the umpires, they're a different breed, they really are, but love them or hate them, the men in white are always right. You ask them and they'll tell you. And a young man who always got a great ride for the men in white was Bucky Cunningham.
Oh, Cage, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think the big fella here, Jack Hilton, gave me too many votes. Jack, did you ever give me a vote?
No, not really. I think for three reasons, Bucky. A, you were too quick, I could never catch you and get your number. B, you were too small, you used to hide in the divots. And B, you had God against you every Saturday.
Oh, God, you had two Bs in there, by the way.
You played with Russell Ebert, right? So how could you get a vote?
I tell you what, you've umpired now for 22 years. You're a big bloke, and it's always intrigued me that big blokes like you, and you must have started umpiring when you were 19, should have played footy. Why'd you umpire?
Well, when I was 19, I was about as tall as you are now. and you know, the big blokes only had to look at me and I had a cork thigh, so no, I gave it away. Well, I used to umpire schoolboys Saturday morning, play for Mitcham Footy Club Saturday afternoon, and then front up Sunday for St Peter's in the YCW, so footy was in my blood.
Jack, I know you want to talk about the secret of your success, and that's your Saturday morning pre-match warm-up, but this is a family show, so we'll concentrate on the medal. Who were your tips just prior to the start of the night?
I tell you, if Rick Kinnear's let that out, I'll kill him. Sorry, you'd like to run the question by me again?
Your tips prior to tonight?
Well, I picked Darryl Hart to win it. I thought he had a super season, but we've got some bolters, well, some dark horses, I guess. Scotty Hodges looks good. My second pick, Scotty Lee, he's looking pretty good. So with 4 rounds to go, it's wide open.
Jack, 41 years old, and this is a serious question, and you are enthusiastic and fit. How much longer can you keep going?
I don't know how long I can keep going, but I'll go as long as I want to go, and I can feel that I can contribute. But certainly I'm only looking to next year, and then I'll take it from there.
Well, we hope you do continue, Jack. You're great for footy. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian.
Jack Hilton there and Neville Roberts joined me. Now, Rocky, they tell me you told him how to umpire a particular game not long ago.
Well, I told him how to umpire many games, but the one that comes to mind was in 1984. It was a grand final. Very early in the piece there was a fight, and Jack actually froze. He didn't really know what to do, so I just quietly reminded him that he was the umpire and he probably should do something before someone got hurt. And he thanked me very much, and he did, and he got on with the job and did a pretty good job at the end.
Who won the game?
We did.
All right, Rocky, let's have a look at the leaderboard after round 16, and certainly at a very interesting stage. Gee whiz, anybody could win the medal at the moment.
Well, it's good to see that Scotty Lee is being rewarded for his performances, and the coaching styles have changed just a little bit for a player out of the back pocket. I guess Bubba Lobbs was the last one to win it from there. Chris McDermott is always in the play, always in the middle. He's being recognised. Nigel Smart, plenty of class. But Tregenza, Hart and Jarman, they all played very good football from round 16 through. Darryl Hart in particular will poll very strongly over the next 3 rounds, and I guess we'll test out the famous theory about whether back chatting goes against you.
Well, Rocky, who's your tip from here?
Well, I'll be to Darren Jarman, man, and I'll have to stay with Darren, and hopefully he won't let me down with some of those brilliant dashes in the last 4 rounds.
OK, before we go back for the final 4 rounds, being a leading journalist yourself, what made news?
Well, in round 17, Ken, Scotty Hodges wrote himself into the record books with 35 goals in 3 games.
That's unbelievable, really, when you think about it, isn't it?
It was magnificent. In fact, he kicked 6 times, he kicked over 10 goals. He became the second Port player in history to reach the magic ton.
Amazing stuff, you know, when you think about that, how he improved in the second half of the year, Rocky.
Well, he's a fantastic player. He's so confident now, there doesn't seem to be anything he doesn't think he can do. And after his performance last Saturday, Ken, he's very, very nearly right. In the same round, the Magpies regained top spot. They'd lost it in round 3, put them back on top of the premiership table, and gee whiz, they've earned that week's rest.
And they'll be hard to beat from there with the week's rest, son.
Top spot, a week off. The script is for another Magpie flag. Moving along to round 20, Alan Jakovic became the second player for the year to kick 100 goals, and the 4th player in Woodville history to do that. He kicked 13 in the last round, and I think he owes a vote of thanks to all his close who helped him along.
He's a different sort of full forward, isn't he, really?
Well, I guess the words you use for him is exciting and explosive, and maybe uncontrollable, if Russell Ebert had to say. But in the same round, we said goodbye to a lot of favourite friends. It was tearful and sentimental, and amongst them was Scruff Hannah, the volatile player from the Eagles. I think everyone had a tear in their eye when he kicked that last goal. That was fantastic for him. The Dogs' nice guy, Mark Pryor, we said goodbye to him on Saturday. And of course, the Tigers' cheeky Kim Hodgman.
What was he like, Kimmy Hodgman?
Well, he never changed. I started in the same year as Kimmy, Ken, and he was always whippy and cheeky, and he always had plenty to say as he stares at me and shakes his head. But we'll always smile when we think of your name, Kim. And, of course, a favourite of all of us, the veteran Grandpa Ralph Sewer. he left many memories in our mind.
Yeah, certainly a very, very emotional day. OK, sit back and buckle up now, because we've got 4 rounds remaining, and of course we'll know then the winner of the 1990 Magarey medal. Back to you, Max.
Thank you, Ken. Round 17, North Adelaide versus Glenelg. Glenelg, D. Marshall, 3 votes. North Adelaide, D. Hart, 2 votes. North Adelaide, D. Jarman, 1 vote. Port Adelaide versus South Adelaide. Port Adelaide, S. Hodges, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, S. Williams, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, G. Wanganeen, 1 vote. West Adelaide versus Central District. West Adelaide, G. Filkey, 3 votes. Central District, E. Hocking, 2 votes. And West Adelaide, P. Ravisi, 1 vote. Woodville versus Sturt. Woodville, J. Klug, 3 votes. Woodville, A. Jakovich, 2 votes. And Woodville, D. Hicks, 1 vote. West Torrens versus Norwood. Norwood, G. McIntosh, 3 votes. Norwood, J. Hall, 2 votes. And Norwood, S. Rowe, 1 vote. That completes round 17. In round 18, South Adelaide versus North Adelaide. North Adelaide, D. Jarman, 3 votes. North Adelaide, D. Hart, 2 votes. South Adelaide, M. Bennett, 1 vote. Sturt versus Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide, S. Tregenza, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, S. Hodges, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, B. Abernethy, 1 vote. Central District versus Glenelg. Central District, E. Hocking, 3 votes. Central District, M. Pryor, 2 votes. Glenelg, P. Hallahan, 1 vote. Norwood versus Woodville. Norwood, G. Tanner, 3 votes. Norwood, M. Robran, 2 votes. Norwood, S. Rowe, 1 vote. West Adelaide versus West Torrens. West Adelaide, D. Barch, 3 votes. West Adelaide, P. Ravisi, 2 votes. West Adelaide, D. Murray, 1 vote. That completes round 18. In round 19, West Adelaide versus Sturt. Sturt, A. Johns, 3 votes. West Adelaide, P. Patterson, 2 votes. West Adelaide, P. Banfield, 1 vote. West Torrens versus Glenelg. Glenelg, R. Thompson, 3 votes. Glenelg, R. Jameson, 2 votes. Glenelg, B. Dean, 1 vote. South Adelaide versus Woodville. South Adelaide, M. Bickley, 3 votes. South Adelaide, D. Trevina, 2 votes. South Adelaide, M. Battams, 1 vote. Norwood versus North Adelaide. North Adelaide, D. Jarman, 3 votes. North Adelaide, A. Saliba, 2 votes. North Adelaide, K. Klomp, 1 vote. Port Adelaide versus Central District. Port Adelaide, R. Johnston, 3 votes. Central District, S. Swert, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, G. Phillips, 1 vote. That completes round 19. And now for the final round. Port Adelaide versus Norwood. Port Adelaide, G. Wanganeen, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, D. Hutton, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, S. Williams, 1 vote. Woodville versus West Torrens. Woodville, A. Jakovich, 3 votes. West Torrens, S. Morfitt, 2 votes. Woodville, R. Sewer, 1 vote. Glenelg versus Sturt. Glenelg, B. Dean, 3 votes. Glenelg, D. Marshall, 2 votes. Glenelg, C. McDermott, 1 vote. West Adelaide versus South Adelaide. South Adelaide, D. Trevina, 3 votes. South Adelaide, M. Bennett, 2 votes. South Adelaide, N. Smart, 1 vote. The final voting paper is North Adelaide versus Central District. Central District, G. McAdam, 3 votes. North Adelaide, M. Parsons, 2 votes. And North Adelaide, N. Craig, 1 vote, and that concludes the voting.
Well, there you see the leaderboard at the moment. So we must await official confirmation of the winner as the SNFL scrutiny has checked votes, etc. But what a sensational count that was. As you can see, the leaderboard there, Scott Hodges 16, Simon Tregenza, Eddie Hocking, and also Scott Lee on 15, as was David Marshall, and 3 players on 14, young Matthew Robin, who had a superb year for Norwood, South Adelaide's Nigel Smart on 14, and also Chris McDermott on 14. But gee whiz, that medal count went right down to the wire, and certainly a very, very interesting count so far as the 1990 Magarey medal was concerned. Okay, let's welcome, in fact we have the official confirmation. I'd like to call upon now the President of the SNFL, Mr. Max Bashir, to come forward and announce the winner of the 1990 Magarey medal. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Max Bashir.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the 1990 Magarey medal is Port Adelaide's Scott Hodges. Scott. Scott, on behalf of us all here and of the football public of South Australia, we certainly congratulate you on a wonderful season. Crikey, 2 medals in the one night, that's not a bad effort actually. But think would have happened, what would have happened if you hadn't won. There were 5 dead heaters for the second place, so we would have run out of medals, I reckon. But you've certainly been an ornament to the game, and I can only say to you, I wish you the very best of luck in your future, because at full forward it's a difficult position, and you've played it with great distinction, and you thoroughly deserve the Magarey medal. Congratulations to Scott Hodges.
Thanks everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank my mum and dad and my brother and sister. You know, they've followed me all through my career, and my father, he comes every week, and he keeps pretty quiet, but he brings me up every week. My girlfriend Julie, she's stuck by me all year. She's helped me out a real lot. She does a lot of things for me, and I really appreciate what you've done. To her family, to all my players, I wouldn't have both these medals tonight if it wasn't for them guys. And I really appreciate what they've done for me this year. And my coach Jack, he's helped me a real lot. And to everybody associated with the Port Adelaide Football Club, thanks again. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, Scotty Hodges, the winner of the 1990 Magarey medal, will come back and toast the winner right after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the 1990 Magarey medal presentation. Our winner, of course, is Scotty Hodges. Scotty, before the count, did you give yourself a chance of winning it or not?
Honestly, Ken, I didn't. I was hoping to get a few votes, but I thought Tregenza was our best shot.
Right.
But I'm very surprised at the moment. I just can't believe it.
Well, Scotty, the amazing thing about it was that the second half, your game changed so dramatically. There was so much confidence about Scotty Hodges. Why was that?
Well, I think when Mark Williams came back from the Bears, he gave me a lot of inspiration and a lot of confidence. I mean, with a man of that much experience, you know, he's been a VFL and he's played 200 games. He's every time I grab the ball, he's beside me, and he's always yelling encouragement to me. And I think he's helped me a real lot, and Jack's done a real lot for me throughout the year.
Did you change your game at all in any way?
No, I tried to just do a lot more work on the training track.
Right.
Especially my hands. When I had my hands right, my kicking wasn't right. But I'm very happy at the moment, you know, to be still grabbing the ball. And I mean, we've got 2 finals to go now, and I hope I can just continue it.
Scotty, 2 finals. Scotty, what about your parents? They've obviously been terrific supporters of yourself. How will they be feeling right now, do you think?
I think they'll be more surprised than what I am.
What about Dad?
Yeah, I reckon he'll be wrapped. Mum will be wrapped, and you know, I owe a lot to them. They've carried me throughout my career, and you know, they've done a real lot for me, and I'd just like to thank them right now.
Terrific, Scotty. Congratulations once again on a magnificent year. The Ken Farmer medal, now the Magarey medal. It's been a marvellous year for us. Scotty Hodges, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks,
and of course, another man who's played a very important part in Scotty's win has been his coach, John Carley's with Ian Day now.
Jack, congratulations. Apart from going out with your daughter, what's different about Scott Hodges this year?
I think that the players have given him a lot of room up forward, Ian, and plus the fact that he's had bad ankles and he hasn't been able to train a lot, and this year he's been on the track every night, and he really does hit the ball hard at training, and I think it's the confidence, A, from the players, and B, from himself. I mean, his recovery is so good. If he misses the mark, he's a very good forward in that he chases and tackles and never gives up, and he's very unselfish.
It's most un-Port Adelaide-like to give the full forward so many opportunities.
Yeah, well, that's really not our team game. Our team game is still to go through the goals. Scotty knows that, and that was mentioned Saturday, that we mustn't overlook or mustn't look too much for Scott, and he understands that. But if he's 5 metres in front and the pass is on, it's on, and the players know that.
I suppose he lives at your place.
No, he doesn't really. He's there a bit, but he's very dedicated.
What's Liz's cooking like?
I think he comes. I think Liz is his second mum. I mean, his parents have been tremendous, and he comes around. Or if Julie goes there, she's home by 10. So,
Jack, you're not kidding anyone.
No. Well, that's all except Saturday night. And Saturday nights at our place, we have 4 kids. I go to bed about 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. One comes in about 3. One comes in at 4. One comes in at 5. And the other one doesn't come in. So, but I feel for Simon Tregenza as well. I mean, the last vote he was 1 behind, and it was Port Adelaide S. Williams, and that 1 vote would have tied. And I'm sure Scott Hodges feels the same, that to be a runner-up twice is very, very unlucky. And he's a young kid with a great future, and we feel for him as well.
Jack, well done. It's a great win for Port Adelaide.
Yes, thanks very much, Ian.
Scott, back to Kim and Neville.
Thanks very much, Ian and Jack. An amazing situation here. Let's have a look at the leaders board, the final and official leaders board, and that is an incredible situation, Neville.
Well, it is the first year that we've actually changed the rules associated with giving out medals, and we were faced with the possibility of maybe having to give out 5. And Scotty Hodges is a worthy winner. When you look at his football, he plays professionally, and you can see by his composure tonight that he's in full control, and that's the reason he's such a good player. And it's the first time a full forward's won at Kim since 1969 when Fred Phillips won it.
Yes, and we've been waiting a long time. There's certainly been some magnificent full forwards since then. Of course, Rick Davies kicking 151 in 1983, I think it was.
Yes.
And Rick didn't poll all that successfully.
No, he didn't. And a full forward at Port Adelaide before, Scotty Hodges, was Tim Evans, and he had 125, 137 and well over 100 on about 4 occasions, and he didn't poll that well either. So it's good to see that the styles have changed just ever so slightly.
OK, let's have a look at the top pollsters from each individual club, starting with Central District.
And Eddie Hocking was a surprise. He's always about the place, the bouncing ball, as Graham Campbell calls him. He did well to score away on level voting with Scott Lee, who was obviously a favourite, and very unlucky Scott Lee, a magnificent season from his back pocket. Say Ghazi surprised just a little with 8, and their prime mover Greg Smith, that wasn't a surprise with 7.
And looking at the Tigers and talking of hard luck stories, look at David Marshall on 15 votes, runner-up, and Chris McDermott. He went unnoticed somewhat this year as far as chances for the Magarey medal are concerned. Rod Jamieson polled well on 8 votes, Robbie Thompson on 7 and Ross Gibbs on 6.
You've got a feel for David Marshall. There he is, Darren Jarman, a favourite. Only 2 votes, 3 votes off the pace, and I guess missing 1 game during the year might have cost him. He finished with 13. Trevor Clisby, the veteran defender, did very, very well to tie away with Daryl Hart on 11. I was surprised that Daryl Hart didn't do better.
And we look at Norwood, and we thought perhaps the winner may come from there, but Matthew Robran topped the polling on 14 votes, Stephen Rowe on 10, and Andrew Jarman, a favourite in some quarters, only 8 votes.
And of course, Scotty Hodges led the way, and a fine medal win it was with 16 votes. Simon Tregenza from his wing, 15. Runner-up, Stephen Williams, 10, playing out of the centre most of the year, and Gavin Wanganeen, the youngest, and Greg Phillips, probably the oldest, tied away on 9.
And looking at the Panthers in the medal, nearly went south. Nigel Smart polling 14 votes, Michael Bennett 13, Trevina and McCarthy both having good seasons, 8 votes apiece.
And the poor old Blues, they had a terrible year, but their rookie Andrew Johns did very well for them. Prolific kick-getter, scored 9. McCarthy, 5, and he was tied away as well.
West Adelaide, Grantley Filkey topped the list with 10 votes. Darren Barch, a very exciting prospect, on 6 votes.
And of course, West Torrens, their skipper Bruce Lindsay with 8. Wayne Wiedemann, not eligible on 6, tied away with Swords. What a bad year he had with injury.
And our final side, which of course is in alphabetical order, John Klug polled 9 votes, along with Darren Clem and Richard Champion. Alan Jakovich managed to poll 5. So there you have the top pollsters from all 10 clubs. To keep you up to date and inform you, now it's back to Ken Cunningham.
Thanks very much, Kim. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please charge your glasses and be upstanding as we drink a toast to the 1990 Magarey medalist from Port Adelaide, Scotty Hodges. Scotty Hodges. Congratulations, Scotty.
David Hines back onto the ground. The tap down. Hodges went up for it. The tap goes to a page. Hodges the soccer. He just about knocked the goal umpire over, and he's got his 100th.
Well done, Scotty Hodges. A marvellous performance. Quick as a flash, he boots his 8th goal for the afternoon. 100 for the season. And what I liked about it was...